The 47th session of the Senate in the third regular session of the 16th Congress is hereby called to order. Senator Sergio R. Osmeña III will lead the chamber in prayer. Senator Osmeña.
Heavenly Father, we bow our heads before you today. With humble hearts, we seek your guidance and pray for wisdom as we face new challenges and strive to make our hopes and expectations come true. We ask for certainty of your unchanging love in the midst of life's uncertainties, for stability and comfort in the midst of disappointments and heartaches, and for courage and discernment in the midst of temptation and weakness. Grant us strength, Lord God, as we hurdle burdens that come our way every day. Fill us with good sense as we go about our work and try to make our nation a much better place to live in for our countrymen. Help us bring our divided nation together, and may we always put public interest over and above personal gains. Also, dear Father, touch our hearts with mercy and love, and bestow on us unyielding faith as we submit everything to you in total surrender and acceptance of what tomorrow and the days to come may bring us. Lastly, as we look back over the past year, we express our profound gratitude for your goodness to us, far beyond what we deserve. May your forgiving attitude lead us to repentance and to a new commitment to make you the center of our lives this year and every year. We ask all of these in the name of our Lord and Savior. Amen.
Amen. The Senate Choir will lead the chamber in the singing of the Philippine National Anthem, after which they'll render a song entitled Minsan Lang Kitang Ibigin. Thank you very much to the Senate Choir for that rendition of our national anthem and the song entitled Minsan Lang Kitang Ibigin. The Secretary will now call the roll.
Roll call of members. The Honorable Senators Angara, Aquino, Binay, Cayetano Alan Peter Compañero S., Cayetano Pia S., Defensor Santiago, Ejercito, Enrile Escudero Estrada, Gingona, Unasan, Lapid, Legarda, Marcos, Usmeña, Pimentel, Po, Recto, Revilla, Soto, Trillanes, Villar, Senate President Trilon.
20 senators are present. The chair declares the presence of a quorum. The Majority Leader.
Good afternoon, Mr. President. Happy New Year to our esteemed colleagues. Mr. President, I move that we dispense with the reading of the journal of the 46th session, Wednesday, December 16, 2015, and consider the same as approved.
Any objection? Hearing none. The reading of the journal of the previous session is hereby dispensed with and the same is hereby approved.
Mr. President, we have a number of bills that we will take up on third reading, so with the permission of the body. Mr. President, I move that we consider on third reading Senate Bill number 2653 on the Comprehensive Tuberculosis Elimination Plan Act, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none. Consideration of the measure of third reading is in order.
With the consent of the body, may we request the Secretary to read only the title of the bill without prejudice to inserting into the Senate Journal and record the whole text thereof.
Senate Bill number 2653, an act establishing a comprehensive Philippine plan of action to eliminate tuberculosis as a public health problem and appropriating funds therefore.
Mr. President, copies of this measure, as approved on second reading, have been distributed to the members of the Senate last January 7, 2016, thereby complying with the 3-day rule found under Section 26, Paragraph 2, Article 6 of the Philippine Constitution. We are thus ready to approve the measure in third reading. I ask for a roll call vote.
Honorable Senators Angara, Aquino, Binay, Cayetano Alan Peter Compañero S., Cayetano Pia S., Defensor Santiago, Ejercito, Enrile Escudero Estrada, Gingona, Unasan, Lapid, Legarda, Marcos, Usmeña, Pimentel, Po, Recto, Revilla, Soto, Trillanes, Villar, Senate President Trilon.
Senate Bill 2653 is approved on third reading.
Thank you, Mr. President. With the consent of the Senate, I move that we consider in third reading Senate Bill number 2779 on Economic and Financial Literacy Act, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none. Consideration of the measure on third reading is in order.
With the consent of the body, may I request the Secretary to read only the title of the bill without prejudice to inserting into the Senate Journal and record the whole text thereof.
The Secretary will do so.
Senate Bill number 2779, an act declaring the second week of November of every year as Economic and Financial Literacy Week.
Sir President, copies of the measure as approved on second reading have been distributed to the members of the Senate last January 7, 2016, thereby complying with the 3-day rule found under Section 26, Paragraph 2, Article 6 of the Philippine Constitution. We are ready to approve the measure on third reading. I ask for a roll call vote.
The Secretary will conduct a roll call vote.
Honorable Senators Angara, Aquino, Binay, Cayetano Alan Peter Compañero S., Cayetano Pia S., Defensor Santiago, Ejercito, Enrile Escudero Estrada, Gingona, Unasan, Lapid, Legarda, Marcos, Usmeña, Pimentel, Po, Recto, Revilla, Soto, Trillanes, Villar, Senate President Trilon.
20 affirmative votes, no negative votes, no abstentions. Senate Bill 2779 is approved on third reading.
Thank you, Mr. President. With the consent of the Senate, I move that we consider on third reading Senate Bill number 2951 on the Agricultural Competitiveness Enhancement Fund, Mr. President.
Consideration of the measure is in order.
With the consent of the body, may I request the Secretary to read only the title of the said bill without prejudice to inserting into the Senate Journal record the whole text thereof.
The Secretary will read the title of the measure.
Senate Bill number 2951, an act amending the period of collection and utilization of the Agricultural Competitiveness Enhancement Fund, ASEF, amending for the purpose Republic Act number 8178 is amended, otherwise known as an act replacing quantitative import restrictions on agricultural products except rice, with tariffs, creating the Agricultural Competitiveness Enhancement Fund, and for other purposes.
Majority Leader.
Mr. President, copies of this measure, as approved on second reading, have been distributed to the members of the Senate last January 7, 2016, thereby complying with the 3-day rule found under Section 26, Paragraph 2, Article 6 of the Philippine Constitution. We are ready to approve the measure in third reading. I move for a roll call vote.
Secretary will conduct the roll call vote.
Honorable Senator Sangara, Aquino, Binay, Cayetano Alan, Peter Companya Ruiz, Cayetano Pias, Defensor Santiago, Ejercito, Enrile, Escudero, Estrada, Gingona, Unasan, Lapid, Legarda, Marcos, Smeña, Pimentel, Po, Recto, Revilla, Soto, Trillanes, Villar. Senate President Rilon.
20 affirmative votes, no negative vote, no abstention. Senate Bill 2951 is approved on third reading.
Thank you, Mr. President. With the consent of the Senate, I move that we consider on third readings Senate Bill 2982 on the expanded maternity leave law, Mr. President.
Consideration of the measure is in order.
With the consent of the body, may I request the Secretary to read only the title of the bill without prejudice to inserting into the Senate Journal and Record the whole text thereof.
Secretary will do so.
Senate Bill number 2982, an act increasing the maternity leave period to 100 days for female employees in the government service and in the private sector, and granting an option to extend for an additional 30 days without pay, amending for the purpose Republic Act number 1161 as amended and for other purposes.
Mr. President, copies of this measure as approved on second reading have been distributed to the members of the Senate last January 7, 2016, thereby complying with the 3-day rule found under Section 26, Paragraph 2, Article 6 of the 1987 Constitution. We are thus ready to approve the measure on third reading. I move for a roll call vote.
Secretary will conduct the roll call vote.
Honorable Senator Sangara, Aquino, Binay, Cayetano Alan, Peter Companya Ruiz, Cayetano Pias, Defensor Santiago, Ejercito, Enrile, Escudero, Estrada, Gingona, Unasan, Lapid, Legarda, Marcos, Usmeña, Pimentel, Po, Recto, Revilla, Soto, Trillanes, Villar. Senate President Rilon.
20 affirmative votes, no negative votes, no abstentions. Senate Bill 2982 is hereby approved on third reading.
Mr. President, just a manifestation and a omnibus motion. There are some requests to be co-authors of some of this bill. May the honorable senators just forward it to the Secretariat, and if they are present here today upon the reading, the third reading, that they be considered co-authors, Mr. President.
Noted. Please proceed.
Mr. President, with the consent of the Senate, I move that we consider on third reading Senate Bill number 2999 on Road Speed Limiter Act, Mr. President.
Consideration of the measure is in order.
Mr. President, with the consent of the body, may request the Secretary to read only the title of the said bill without prejudice to inserting into the Senate Journal and Record the whole text thereof.
Secretary will do so.
Senate Bill number 2999, an act mandating the installation of speed limiters and setting speed limits for public utility buses and for other purposes.
Majority Leader.
Mr. President, copies of this measure as approved on second reading have been distributed to the members of the Senate last January 7, 2016, thereby complying with the 3-day rule found under Section 26, Paragraph 2, Article 6 of the 1987 Constitution. I move for a roll call vote.
Secretary will conduct the roll call vote.
Honorable Senator Sangara, Aquino, Binay, Cayetano, Alan, Peter Companya Ruiz, Cayetano Pias, Defensor Santiago, Ejercito, Enrile, Escudero, Estrada, Gingona, Unasan, Lapid, Legarda, Marcos, Usmeña, Pimentel, Po, Recto, Revilla, Soto, Trillanes, Villar. Senate President Rilon.
18 affirmative votes, no negative votes, no abstention. Senate Bill 2999 is approved on third reading.
Mr. President, with the consent of the Senate, I move that we consider in third reading Senate Bill 3023 on the foreign investment restrictions, Mr. President.
The consideration of the measure is in order.
With the consent of the body, may I request the Secretary to read only the title of the bill without prejudice to inserting into the Senate Journal and Record the whole text thereof.
The Secretary will do so.
Senate Bill number 3023, an act amending foreign ownership restrictions in specific laws governing adjustment companies, lending companies, financing companies, and investment houses cited in the foreign investment negative list, except those in the Constitution and for other purposes.
Majority Leader.
Mr. President, copies of the measure as approved on second reading have been distributed to the members of the Senate last January 7, 2016, thereby complying with the 3-day rule mandated under Section 26, Paragraph 2, Article 6 of the 1987 Philippine Constitution. I move for a roll call vote, Mr. President.
Secretary will conduct the roll call vote.
Honorable Senators Angara, Aquino, Binay, Cayetano, Alan, Peter Companya Ruiz, Cayetano Pias, Defensor Santiago, Ejercito, Enrile, Escudero, Estrada, Gingona, Unasan, Lapid, Legarda, Marcos, Usmeña, Pimentel, Po, Recto, Revilla, Soto, Trillanes, Villar, Senate President Trilan.
18 affirmative votes, no negative votes, no abstention. Senate Bill 3023 is approved on third reading.
Mr. President, with the consent of the Senate, I move that we consider on third reading Senate Bill number 2671, the Salary Standardization Law, Mr. President.
Any objection, hearing none, consideration of the measure is in order.
Mr. President, with the consent of the body, may we request the Secretary to read only the title of the bill without prejudice to inserting into the Senate Journal and Record the whole text thereof.
The Secretary will do so.
Senate Bill number 2671, an act modifying the compensation and position classification system of civilian government personnel and the base pay schedule of military and uniformed personnel in the government and for other purposes.
Mr. President, Senator Cayetano would wish to make a manifestation. I withdraw that, Mr. President. Mr. President, copies of this measure as approved on second reading were distributed to the members of the Senate last January 11, 2016, thereby complying with the 3-day rule found under Section 26, Paragraph 2, Article 6 of the 1987 Constitution. We're thus ready to approve the measure on third reading. I ask for a roll call vote.
Secretary will conduct a roll call vote.
Honorable Senator Sangara, Aquino, Binay, Cayetano, Alan, Peter, Compañero S, Cayetano, P.I.S., Defensor Santiago, Ejercito, Enrile, Escudero, Estrada, Gingona, Hunasan, Lapid, Ligarda, Marcos, Usmeña, Pimentel, Po, Recto, Revilla, Soto, Trillanes, Villar, Senate President Trillanes.
19 affirmative votes, no negative votes, no abstention. Senate Bill 2671 is approved on third reading.
Mr. President, may we recognize Senator Cayetano to explain his vote.
Sir President.
Senator Cayetano.
Sir President, just very short manifestation. I voted in the affirmative. May I just put on the record that the reason I voted in the affirmative is because an increase, whatsoever increase, is better than no increase, and we do not want to delay the bill. Having said that, may I be allowed to submit in writing my explanation because there are 3 issues that I'd like to take up. The first is there is a provision in this law that repeals certain provisions of the Magna Carta that I think the BICAM should take a look at because it might be misinterpreted as diminishing the certain points granted to certain professionals and certain sectors under the Magna Carta.
Magna Carta for?
The different Magna Cartas, Mr. President. There's a provision that says that any provision inconsistent with this law is hereby repealed, but it specifies different Magna Cartas.
All right.
So we'll ask the BICAM just to specify that it should not diminish substantial rights of these professionals under the Magna Carta. Number 2, there's a continuing debate whether the high-level officials should get much more increase compared to lower-level officials, and I think the BICAM should also take a second look at that. And lastly, Mr. President, the increase still does not meet the cost of living of the present day. And while we do not give public officials pay commensurate to a living wage, there will be corruption and there will be a search for additional income. So we just like to bring this up at the proper time in the BICAM, and if it's addressed, then I will vote affirmative in the ratification of the BICAM report. If not, I will cross the bridge when we're there. But thank you for this opportunity, Mr. President.
So noted. Next.
Mr. President, may we recognize Senator Pia Cayetano to also explain her vote.
Please, Senator Cayetano is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, as chairman of the Committee on Education, I heard a number of bills on the increase of the salaries of teachers. And I was requested by DepEd, and if I'm not mistaken, some colleagues also, because of the pending SSL. The idea being is that the SSL was supposed to address the concern of the teachers for their increase in pay. And I will put on record that although I have supported the SSL in general, I have very strong concerns because the benefits that were awarded to the teachers in particular is much, much lower than the initial talks that they were having before. And I may be constrained to file the bill that I kept on hold because the SSL did not reflect and did not does not reflect the amounts that we had expected to be given to the teachers. I also have the same concerns for nurses. It's been almost the duration of my entire term as the Senate, where I feel that we have played around with their salaries, that every time we have an SSL, it goes below what we had previously awarded them. So I put these things on record and also hope that this will be addressed in BICAM. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Cayetano. The Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. With the consent of the Senate, I move that we consider on third reading Senate Bill number 2968 on the Customs Modernization and Tariff Act, Mr. President.
Consideration of the measure is in order.
With the consent of the body, may we request the Secretary to read only the title of the bill without prejudice to inserting into the Senate Journal record the whole text thereof.
The Secretary will do so.
Senate Bill number 2968, an act modernizing the Customs and Tariff Administration.
Sir President, copies of the measure as approved on second reading have been distributed to the members of the Senate last January 12, 2016, thereby complying with the 3-day rule found under Section 26, Paragraph 2, Article 6 of the Philippine Constitution. I move for a roll call vote.
Secretary will conduct a roll call vote.
Honorable Senators Angara, Aquino, Binay, Cayetano Alan, Peter Compañero S., Cayetano Pia S., Defensor Santiago, Ejercito, Enriles, Escudero, Estrada, Gingona, Unasan, Lapid, Legarda, Marcos, Usmeña, Pimentel, Po, Recto, Revilla, Soto, Trillanes, Villar. Senate President Drilon.
19 affirmative votes, no negative votes, no abstention. Senate Bill 2968 is hereby approved on third reading.
With the consent of the Senate, I move that we consider on third reading House Bill number 4507 on Contel Communications Incorporated, Mr. President.
In order.
With the consent of the body, may we request the Secretary to read only the title of the bill without prejudice to inserting into the Senate Journal and record the whole text thereof.
The Secretary will do so.
House Bill number 4507, an act renewing the franchise of Contel Communications Incorporated, assignee of the grantee under Republic Act numbered 3932 as amended by Republic Act numbered 7401, entitled an act granting the Concepcion Industries Incorporated a franchise to construct, maintain, and operate radio telephone stations for the transmission and reception of radio communications within the Philippines for another 25 years from the effectivity of this act, and ratifying the assignment and transfer of the franchise from Concepcion Industries Incorporated to Contel Communications Incorporated.
Sir President, copies of the measure as approved on second reading have been distributed to the members of the Senate last January 7, 2016, thereby complying with the 3-day rule found under the 1987 Constitution. We are thus ready to approve the measure on third reading. I move for a roll call vote.
Secretary will conduct the roll call vote.
Honorable Senators Angara, Aquino, Binay, Cayetano Alan, Peter Compañero S., Cayetano Pia S., Defensor Santiago, Ejercito, Enriles, Escudero, Estrada, Gingona, Unasan, Lapid, Legarda, Marcos, Usmeña, Pimentel, Po, Recto, Revilla, Soto, Trillanes, Villar. Senate President Drilon.
19 affirmative votes, no negative votes, no abstention. House Bill 4507 is approved on third reading. Majority Leader.
With the consent of the Senate, I move that we consider on third reading House Bill 5154 on the People, Broadband, and Telecommunications Corporation, Mr. President.
Consideration of the measure is in order.
With the consent of the body, may we request the Secretary to read only the title of the bill without prejudice to inserting into the Senate Journal and record the whole text thereof.
The Secretary will do so.
House Bill number 5154, an act granting the People, Broadband, and Telecommunications Corporation a franchise to construct, install, establish, operate, and maintain telecommunication systems throughout the Philippines.
Sir President, copies of the measure as approved on second reading have been distributed to the members of the Senate last January 7, 2016, thereby complying with the 3-day rule under the 1987 Constitution. We are thus ready to approve the measure on third reading. I move for a roll call vote.
Secretary will conduct the roll call vote.
Honorable Senators Angara, Aquino, Binay, Cayetano Alan, Peter Compañero S., Cayetano Pia S., Defensor Santiago, Ejercito, Enriles, Escudero, Estrada, Gingona, Unasan, Lapid, Legarda, Marcos, Usmeña, Pimentel, Po, Recto, Revilla, Soto, Trillanes, Villar. Senate President Drilon.
19 affirmative votes, no negative votes, no abstention. House Bill 5154 is approved on third reading.
With the consent of the Senate, I move that we consider on third reading House Bill number 5582 on Radio Veritas Global Broadcasting Systems Incorporated, Mr. President.
In objection, hearing none, consideration of the measure on third reading is in order.
With the consent
Before the Majority Leader, can I request the Sergeant at Arms to ask our pages to refrain from walking around because it is so disturbing for the chair to be listening to the Majority Leader and be distracted by our personnel walking around the session hall. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. With the consent of the body, may we request the Secretary to read only the title of the bill without prejudice to inserting into the Senate Journal Record the whole text thereof.
Secretary will do so.
House Bill number 5582, an act renewing the franchise granted to Radio Veritas Global Broadcasting System Incorporated to construct, install, operate, and maintain for religious, educational, cultural, and commercial purposes radio and television broadcasting stations in the Philippines and for other purposes under Republic Act numbered 7579 to another 25 years.
Mr.
Majority
President,
Leader.
copies of the measure as approved on second reading have been distributed to the members of the Senate last January 7, 2016, thereby complying with the constitutional requirement on the 3 days. Mr. President, we are ready to approve the measure on third reading. I move for a roll call vote.
Secretary will conduct the roll call vote.
Honorable Senators Angara, Aquino, Binay, Cayetano Alan, Peter Cumpanya Ruiz, Cayetano P.I.S., Defensor Santiago, Ejercito, Enrile, Escudero, Estrada, Gingona, Unasan, Lapid, Ligarda, Marcos, Usmeña, Pimentel, Poe, Recto, Revilla, Soto, Trillanes, Villar, Senate President Drilon. 19
affirmative votes, no negative votes, no abstention. House Bill 5582 is hereby approved on third reading.
Mr. President, with the consent of the Senate, I move that we consider on third reading House Bill number 5591 on the Tarlac Electric Incorporated, Mr. President.
In order.
With consent of the body, we request the Secretary to read only the title of the bill without prejudice to inserting into the Senate Journal Record the whole text thereof.
Secretary will do so.
House Bill number 5591, an act extending for a period of 25 years the term of the franchise granted to Tarlac Electric Inc., formerly known as Tarlac Enterprises Inc., to construct, operate, and maintain an electric light, heat, and power system in the city of Tarlac, province of Tarlac, provided under Republic Act number 7606.
Mr. President, copies of this measure as approved on second reading have been distributed to the members of the Senate last January 7, 2016, thereby complying with the 3-day rule under the Philippine Constitution. We are thus ready to approve the measure on third reading. I move for a roll call vote.
Secretary will conduct the roll call vote.
Honorable Senators Angara, Aquino, Binay, Cayetano Alan, Peter Cumpanya Ruiz, Cayetano P.I.S., Defensor Santiago, Ejercito, Enrile, Escudero, Estrada, Gingona, Unasan, Lapid, Legarda, Marcos, Usmeña, Pimentel, Poe, Recto, Revilla, Soto, Trillanes, Villar, Senate President Drilon.
19 affirmative votes, no negative votes, no abstention. House Bill 5591 is hereby approved on third reading.
With the consent of the Senate, I move that we consider on third reading House Bill number 5592 on the Far East Broadcasting Company, Philippines Incorporated, Mr. President.
In objection, hearing none, in order.
With the consent of the body, may I request the Secretary to read only the title of the bill without prejudice to inserting into the Senate Journal Record the whole text thereof.
Please proceed.
House Bill number 5592, an act renewing the franchise granted to Far East Broadcasting Company, Philippines, Inc., under Republic Act number 8115, entitled an act granting the Far East Broadcasting Company, Philippines, Inc., a franchise to construct, maintain, and operate non-commercial radio broadcasting stations in the Philippines.
Secretary.
Mr. President, copies of this measure as approved on second reading have been distributed to the members of the Senate last January 7, 2016, thereby complying with the 3-day rule found under Section 26, Paragraph 2, Article 6 of the Philippine Constitution. We are ready to approve the measure on third reading. Therefore, I ask for a roll call vote.
Secretary will conduct the roll call vote.
Honorable Senators Angara, Aquino, Binay, Cayetano Alan, Peter Cumpanya Ruiz, Cayetano P.I.S., Defensor Santiago, Ejercito, Enrile, Escudero, Estrada, Gingona, Unasan, Lapid, Legarda, Marcos, Usmeña, Pimentel, Poe, Recto, Revilla, Soto, Trillanes, Villar, Senate President Drilon.
19 affirmative votes, no negative votes, no abstention. House Bill 5592 is hereby approved on third reading. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that we consider in third reading House Bill number 5940 on Progressive Broadcasting Corporation.
Any objection? Hearing none. In order.
With the consent of the body, may I request the Secretary to read only the title of the bill without prejudice to inserting into the Senate Journal Record the whole text thereof.
Secretary will do so.
House Bill number 5940, an act renewing for another 25 years the franchise granted to Progressive Broadcasting Corporations under Republic Act number 7163 as amended by Republic Act number 8162.
Mr. President, copies of the measure as approved on second reading have been distributed to the members of the Senate last January 7, 2016, thereby complying with the 3-day rule required by the Philippine Constitution. We are thus ready to approve the measure on third reading.
Secretary, I'm sorry.
I move for a roll call vote, Mr. President.
Secretary will conduct the roll call vote.
Honorable Senators Angara, Quino, Binay, Cayetano, Alan, Peter, Compañía Ruiz, Cayetano, Piaes, Defensor, Santiago, Ejercito, Enrile, Escudero, Estrada, Gingona, Unasan, Lapid, Legarda, Marcos, Smeña, Pimentel, Po, Recto, Revilla, Soto, Trillanes, Villar, Senate President Drilon.
19 affirmative votes, no negative votes, no abstention. House Bill 5940 is approved on third reading.
Mr. President, with the consent of the Senate, I move that we consider in third reading House Bill number 5982 on the Mabuhay Broadcasting System Incorporated.
Consideration of the measure is in order.
Mr. President, with the consent of the body, may I request the Secretary to read only the title of the said bill without prejudice to inserting into the Senate Journal Record the whole text thereof.
The Secretary will do so.
House Bill number 5982, an act renewing for another 25 years and expanding to radio, television, broadcasting national in scope throughout the Philippines, the franchise granted to Mabuhay Broadcasting System, Inc. under Republic Act number 7395 entitled an act granting the Mabuhay Broadcasting System, Inc. a franchise to construct, install, operate, and maintain radio broadcasting stations in the island of Luzon and for other purposes.
Mr. President, on January 7, 2016, members of the Senate received a copy of this measure as approved on second reading, thereby complying with the 3-day rule required by the Philippine Constitution. We are thus ready to approve the measure in third reading. I move for a roll call vote.
Secretary will conduct the roll call vote.
Honorable Senators Angara, Quino, Binay, Cayetano, Alan, Peter, Compañía Ruiz, Cayetano, Piaes, Defensor, Santiago, Ejercito, Enrile, Escudero, Estrada, Gingona, Unasan, Lapid, Legarda, Marcos, Smeña, Pimentel, Po, Recto, Revilla, Soto, Trillanes, Villar, Senate President Drilon.
19 affirmative votes, no negative votes, no abstention. House Bill 5982 is hereby approved on third reading.
With the consent of the Senate, I move that we consider in third reading House Bill number 6012 on Bell Telecommunications Philippines, Mr. President.
In objection, hearing none, consideration of the measure is in order.
With the consent of the body, may I request the Secretary to read the title of the bill without prejudice to inserting into the Senate Journal Record the whole text thereof.
The Secretary will do so.
House Bill number 6012, an act extending for another 25 years the franchise granted to Bell Telecommunications Philippines, Inc., amending for the purpose Republic Act number 7692 entitled an act granting to Bell Telecommunications Philippines, Inc., a franchise to install, operate, and maintain telecommunication system throughout the Philippines and for other purposes.
Secretary will... Majority Leader.
Yes. Mr. President, copies of this measure as approved on second reading have been distributed to the members of the Senate last January 7, 2016, thereby complying with the 3-day rule found under Section 26, Paragraph 2, Article 6 of the 1987 Constitution. We are thus ready to approve the measure in third reading. I ask for a roll call vote.
Secretary will conduct the roll call vote.
Honorable Senators Angara, Quino, Binay, Cayetano, Alan, Peter, Compañía Ruiz, Cayetano, Piaes, Defensor, Santiago, Ejercito, Enrile, Escudero, Estrada, Gingona, Unasan, Lapid, Legarda, Marcos, Smeña, Pimentel, Po, Recto, Revilla, Soto, Trillanes, Villar, Senate President Drilon.
19 affirmative votes, no negative votes, no abstention. House Bill 6012 is hereby approved on third reading. Majority Leader.
Mr. President, before we go to the reference of business, with the permission of the Senate, I move that we consider Senate Resolution 1699, taking into consideration proposed Senate Resolution number 1701. I'm sorry, Mr. President. Yes, 1701 and 1704. These are the resolutions expressing the Senate and the individual members of the Senate's profound sympathy and sincere condolences on the death of Letty Jimenez Magsanok, Editor-in-Chief of the Philippine Daily Inquirer.
Any objection? Hearing none. Consideration of proposed Senate Resolution number 1699 is hereby is in order, taking into consideration proposed Senate Resolution 1701, 1704, and 1704.
With the consent of the Senate, may I request the Secretary to read the title and text of the said measure.
Secretary will read the title and the text of the measure.
PS Resolution number 1699 introduced by Senate President Franklin M. Drilon. Resolution expressing the profound sympathy and sincere condolence of the Senate on the death of Letty Jimenez Magsanok, Editor-in-Chief of the Philippine Daily Inquirer. Whereas Letty Jimenez Magsanok, an esteemed journalist and the longest-serving Editor-in-Chief of the Philippine Daily Inquirer, passed away on 24 December 2015. Whereas Jimenez Magsanok stood as a prominent sentinel of press freedom who actively resisted any form of undue suppression in journalism and bravely wielded her pen to expose the truth despite the perils of such a courageous stance under a dictatorship that adhered to a policy of severe censorship. Whereas her fearlessness inspired colleagues in the profession whose collective efforts set off a series of events that precipitated the country's freedom from the clutches of a dictatorial government. Whereas her career blossomed and spanned several decades as she took on various roles in the field of journalism as a writer for the Manila Bulletin in 1969, editor of the Philippine Panorama 1976 to 1981, editor of the Mr. and Mrs. Special Edition 1983 to 1986, co-founder of the Philippine Daily Inquirer 1985, editor of the Sunday Inquirer magazine 1986 to 1987, and Editor-in-Chief of the Philippine Daily Inquirer 1991 to 2015. Whereas her remarkable contribution to the profession merited numerous awards and citations, among which are the 10 Outstanding Women of the New Society 1981, Honor Medal for Distinguished Service in Journalism, University of Missouri 1993, the Star of Asia Business Week International Magazine 2000, Marcelo del Pilar Journalism Award for Print, Rotary Club of Manila 2000, 60 Years of Asian Heroes, Time Magazine International 2006, and Journalist of the Year, 19th Rotary Club of Manila Journalism Awards 2015. Whereas her commitment to responsible, complete, and fair reporting, regardless of the risks and hazards such vow entails, cultivated higher ethical standards in the field of journalism and fostered a steadfast pursuit for the truth. Whereas the members of this august chamber joined the nation in mourning the death of Jimenez Magsanok, the distinguished Editor-in-Chief of the Philippine Daily Inquirer, a resolute leader and a generous mentor to her colleagues in the profession. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Senate to express, as it hereby expresses, its profound sympathy and sincere condolence on the death of Letty Jimenez Magsanok, Editor-in-Chief of the Philippine Daily Inquirer. Resolved further that a copy of this resolution be furnished to the bereaved family of Letty Jimenez Magsanok.
Majority Leader.
Mr. President, in consideration of how this great woman and just overall wonderful person have touched the lives of Filipinos and the nation, I move that all senators present who want to be made co-authors be made co-authors of this measure.
All senators present in this afternoon session are hereby made co-authors of
Mr.
proposed
President.
Senate Resolution 1699.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that we approve proposed Senate Resolution number 1699, taking into consideration proposed Senate Resolution 1701 and 1704, subject to style, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none. Proposed Senate Resolution number 1699, taking into consideration proposed Senate Resolution 1701 and 1074 is hereby adopted.
We have a minute suspension, Mr. President.
The Chair declares a 1-minute suspension and would request the family and other of the late Letty Jimenez Magsanok to come forward and ascend the rostrum so that we can formally hand over the Senate Resolution number 110. Session is suspended. may I ask the other senators to likewise join us for the ceremonial photo taking? Session is resumed.
Ready to resume, Mr. President.
Majority Leader.
Mr. President, Senator Poe wants to make a manifestation. Wants to be recognized, Mr. President.
Senator Poe is recognized. May I know the pleasure of the lady?
Yes.
Senator?
Mr. President, I would like to make a manifestation and parliamentary inquiry regarding the conduct of an additional hearing on the Mama Sapano issue.
Please proceed.
Mr. President, I would like to confirm and place on the record some factual and legal antecedents leading to the putative reopening of the Mama Sapano incident. Incidentally, we're planning that on January 27, 10 a.m. In the session hall, it will take place. These points, Mr. President, are significant to crystallize and clear out the issue, further emphasizing that fairness, justice, and parity are the main hallmarks as we reopen the inquiry as follows. Number one, on March 18, 2015, our committees, the Senate Committee on Public Order and Dangerous Drugs, Peace, Reconciliation and Unification, and Finance, submitted Committee Report 120 on the various resolutions with regard to the Mama Sapano battle, an incident which resulted in the death of 44 police commandos of the Special Action Force of the Philippine National Police and 23 more fighters on January 25, 2015. The report was a product of 5 public hearings, 5 executive sessions, and based on volumes of documents submitted. The committee report, with some variants and separate comments from the members, was signed by 21 senators and submitted to plenary for its consideration. Number 2, on October 7, 2015, and then again on November 9, 2015, the Minority Leader, Senator Juan Ponce Enrile, took the floor and moved for the reopening of the Mama Sapano investigation. Number 3, when the issue of the reopening of the Mama Sapano incident was discussed on the floor, I felt a sense of dilemma as it will open again the issue of bloody confrontation that marred the nation last year. But I am in agreement with the transparency call of the Minority Leader in particular because he may have new information which will supplement a report, notably new perspectives as he directly discussed with survivors of the incidents and their families. Recalling my position, in reply and as chairperson of the main committee that investigated, I said categorically that I stand by the committee reports submitted. I inquired too from the Senate leadership of the implication of the rules of the Senate, in particular Section 32 on the planned conduct of additional hearings. This is significant as it will be our guide in our legislative action. Number 4, after Senator Soto and Pimentel posited divergent views on the matter, the Senate President ruled to refer the different opinions to the Committee on Rules. The relevant portion of the journal and transcript of the November 9, 2015 Senate session mentioned in verbatim, Senate President Drilon said, "The clear implication of the motion of Senator Pimentel is that if there is no new matter that is the basis of the motion to refer back to the committee, then the committee report is vacated. So it is a question of fact. Now, that is why initially we referred the divergent opinions to the Committee on Rules because we cannot possibly decide on questions of fact during plenary debates. So the request of Senator Enrile is that the Committee on Rules be given a time frame within which to rule on this. And the chair is proposing that they be given until Monday to rule on the issue. If that is acceptable to everyone, then we refer to the Committee on Rules the interpretation of Section 32, not the motion of Senator Enrile, and the Committee on Rules is given until Monday, November 16, to rule on the application of Section 32. Number 5, in the late afternoon of January 4, 2016, I learned from media reports that the Senate Committee on Rules approved the reopening of the investigation of the Mama Sapano battle. The news report further stated that before the recess for Christmas break last December, Senate Minority Leader Juan Ponce Enrile, through Senate Deputy Minority Leader Vicente Soto III, moved to have the investigation reopened, saying that there were still some relevant issues unanswered by the resource persons. Majority Leader Alan Peter Cayetano, who chairs the committee, said that whenever a fellow senator makes an assertion that there are new matters to take up, the body will take it in good faith that there are indeed new matters. Mr. President, given the aforecited antecedents, may I posit the following inquiries. Number 1, when did the Committee on Rules decide on the matter pertaining to the applicability of Section 32 of our rules as referred to it by the Senate President? Number 2, what was its decision specifically, and may we be given a copy of the resolution or ruling of the Committee on Rules? Number 3, may I get the confirmation from the body if indeed as requested by the Minority Leader, the Mama Sapano hearing has been ordered reopened by plenary. Number 4, given the discussions on the floor regarding Section 32 of our rules, what are the parameters, if any, of the hearings that will be conducted? And number 5, of significance too, I appreciate Senator Ponce Enrile for giving us already the names of the resource persons he wants to be invited. May I, however, request the body, as a collegial institution, on how to treat the resource persons we invited in the past committee hearings and who testified in executive session as guests during that time, taking into consideration the sensitivity of their testimonies and the implication of the same to national security. Mr. President, it has always been my resolute duty that fairness, impartiality, and independence be the guiding lights in the conduct of public hearings. The committee will be guided only by the institutions and the people's search for the truth, and I will not shirk from the mandate and responsibility accorded to me as a senator and as chairperson of the Committee of Public Order and Dangerous Drugs. I shall do this, Mr. President, not to politicize nor reopen old wounds, but because it is my sworn duty as Senator of the Republic to best serve the ends of justice and truth for all, especially the fallen 44 of the Special Action Force and their families, sapagkat ang pinakamataas na paglilingkod ay dapat na mula sa totoong katarungan. Maraming salamat po, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Senator Poe. Senator Enrile is recognized.
Mr. President, thank you very much for recognizing me, so that there will be no more questions about whether we should reopen the Mama Sapano hearing or not. I would like to make it of record that I have evidence, one, that the President of the Philippines, Benigno S. Aquino III, actively and directly involved himself in the planning and preparation for upland exodus. Second, that on the day of the actual operation, he was monitoring the operation while he was in his plane going to Zamboanga City. Third, that while the operation was going on and the SAF units were being slaughtered, he did not do anything at all to save them. And I'm going to prove this with evidence in that hearing.
Majority Leader.
Mr. President,
Thank you very much, Mr. President.
may I thank Senator Poe and the Minority Leader, Senator Enrile, and as way of both a rejoinder, manifestation, and also the ruling of the Committee on Rules, may I just add to the antecedent facts that Senator Poe read. First of all, personally, I signed the report stating there that it is an incomplete report, meaning that we really have to continue the hearings. On May 4, 2015, we calendared Committee Report 120, the Mama Sapano report, in a calendar for ordinary business. Thereafter, the office of the Majority Leader never received any request from Senator Grace Poe, the chairman of the Committee on Public Order and Dangerous Drugs, to calendar the report for sponsorship, just for the record. As early as July 23, 2015, this representation, Alang Cayetano, sent a letter to Senator Poe for the reopening of the Mama Sapano hearing. I consider the report as a partial report and that more hearings are needed to uncover the entire truth on what happened. I also expressed dismay on the Ombudsman recommendation to initiate administrative adjudication and preliminary investigation proceedings against junior PNP SAF SAF field officers who survived the Mama Sapano incident and risked their lives for country and people's safety. For the record, Mr. President, that was the new matters I was bringing up.
What is this? What is the new matter?
July 23, Mr. President, na nauna pang kasuhan yung junior officers na survivors, kaso po doon sa mga pumaslang sa SAF 44. This was July, Mr. President, after the Ombudsman came out, no? And
Is this after the report?
after the
was-
report, Mr. President, but the committee and Senator Po did not answer my letter. So it was not until December 9, 2015, that Senator Enrile manifested his interest in reopening the hearing, citing new matters. Senator Enrile claims he received additional information from the family members of the staff, troopers, and other police officers when he was still incarcerated at the PNP headquarters. And the minority leader has already made very clear, no? A few minutes ago, his statement. So I'll leave it at that. May I just take note, Mr. President, that the rule states new matters and not new evidence. Because parati pong may nagtatanong sa atin sa media, Sir, kailangan ng new evidence bago buksan ang hearing. Hindi po. Ang nasa rule po natin ay new matters because hindi naman po court of law ang hearing. This is legislative hearings in aid of legislation. So matters regarding the law, regarding the implementation of the law, or factual matters are considered new matters. Mr. President, I have always been fully supportive on the call for reopening, and I have always supported this call. However, Senator Escudero, then later on Senator Grace Po in media reports said that it's better that we discuss first in this hall the committee report before opening it. However, in plenary, Senator Grace Po stated that she has no objection to the motion on the reopening of public hearings. She more importantly asked the Senate leadership to apprise her of the effect of Section 32 of the Rules of the Senate on the reopening of the Mama Sapano issue. And I think a few minutes ago, Senator Po also made her stand and her issues that she wants clarified. She laid it out to us in simple terms. No? So, Mr. President, the Committee on Rules have met, and we are unanimous that that the Section 32 should be read as it is. No? When a report is returned to a committee or is transmitted to another, unless it is returned for purpose of conducting further public hearings on new matters arising after the report, all previous proceedings in connection therewith shall be deemed to be void, and the matter in question shall revert to its original status. Senator Pimentel asked, what are these new matters? And then this issue was given to the Committee on Rules. So the ruling of the Committee on Rules, Mr. President, is that when a member claims new matters, unless someone on the floor questions it, we will ascribe good faith to that member. And I think that is the right thing to do. Therefore, Mr. President, there is nothing in Section 32 that prohibits the committee or the plenary to return the committee report based on a motion. It may be the chairperson or any member, and the hearings reopened based on a motion of a member and claiming that new matters have arisen from the said report, Mr. President. I mean, I think it is as simple as that.
Well, the chair would like to know, the interpretation of the Committee on Rules on new matters refer to any matter, not necessarily evidence?
Yes, Mr. President. Because that's why it was said new matters, not new evidence. In fact,
So what is this new matter in this particular case?
in this particular case, Mr. President, Senator Enrile, while our ruling is that he doesn't have to specify unless someone questions, but he already specified a while ago that he has information about the role of the President during this. He has evidence on the role of the President while this was happening. And on my side, Mr. President, the new matters arising is the Ombudsman case and their interpretation of the law. Because if the Ombudsman is correct and dapat kasuhan yung junior officer, paano ngayon, pagka inutusan ka, hindi ka sumunod, insubordination. Pag sumunod ka naman, kakasuhan ka. I do not question the filing of cases against the senior PNP officials because there is amount of discretion there. But for junior officials, they either follow the order and not, and they simply followed the order, but now they have a case recommended by the Ombudsman to be filed. That was the matter that I brought up, Mr. President. No?
So this is a matter arising after the report.
After the report, Mr. President.
All right. We would like to state for the record that we want to study carefully the manifestation of and report of the chairman of the committee rules because of its implication in future matters arising that may arise in this chamber. We would want to reserve our opinion on the matter, but yes, Senator Poe.
Mr. President, by saying that you'd like to reserve your opinion on the matter, does it mean that we shall not proceed with the hearing?
Sorry?
When you say that you would like to reserve your opinion on the matter,
I am reserving my opinion on the interpretation of the Committee on Rules on the phrase new matters arising after the report.
so meaning, but you are aware that we are scheduled to have the hearing. I am assuming that the Committee on Rules had voted on this. There are no objections, so we are scheduling the hearing, the reopening on the 27th, unless there are objections, Mr. President.
The report has not been, there has been no action on the report of the Committee on Rules yet.
Mr. President, to clarify, my reading of what transpired in the session hall is that it was a motion by Senator Enrile where Senator Poe gave no objection, and Senator Enrile's manifestation is interest in the reopening of the hearings on citing new matters. So, reading Section 32, either someone or the chairman herself asked that the committee report be returned citing new matters.
If the chair may interrupt the majority leader, the motion of Senator Enrile to have the matter referred back to the committee as manifested by Senator Poe has not been acted upon by the chamber.
Yes.
What was acted upon was the referral to the Committee on Rules on the issue of the new matters arising, of the interpretation of the phrase new matters arising after the report.
Correct, Mr. President. May I ask for a minute?
That's why Senator Poe raised the question in the course of her manifestation, raising the question, has it been reopened? Meaning the Mama Sapano hearings. The issue was raised by Senator Poe whether or not it has been reopened, in effect whether or not the chamber has already acted on the motion to reopen. Would you want the majority leader ask for a suspension?
Yes, Mr. President. May I ask a minute suspension just to show the good senators the exact motion during that day?
Session suspended.
Ready to resume, Mr. President.
Session is resumed.
Mr. President, before I restate the interpretation of the committee on Section 32, may I just answer one of the questions of Senator Poe, the chairperson of the said committee, just as a guide for all of us. She asked how she will treat testimony given in executive session and how we will treat resource persons or witnesses that will appear before the committee that have appeared in executive session. I think, Mr. President, the rules of the committee is very, the rules of the Senate is very clear. May I read Section 128? The President, as well as the senators and officials and employees of the Senate, shall absolutely refrain from divulging any of the confidential matters taken up by the Senate, and all proceedings which might have taken place in the Senate in connection with the said matter shall likewise be considered as strictly confidential until the Senate, by a vote of 2/3 of all its members, deciding to lift the ban of secrecy. Having said that, Mr. President, we have advised senators to try to refrain to ask questions which have been answered in executive session. But if they do ask, it will be up to the witness whether he or she will reply, and if they can reply, better. If not, and they will cite national security or any privilege under the law, then the committee will act upon it accordingly. So, Mr. President, it will be the same case for any committee. We will simply follow our rules, Mr. President. So if the witnesses, their answers, then we have no problem. Mr. President, I think
Minority Leader is recognized.
Mr. President, my question is, was there a national security matter involved in the Mama Sapano? Mr. President, there was none. This was a police operation involving the enforcement of our criminal laws. In fact, according to the basis of that operation, they were supposed to be enforcing a warrant of arrest. What is national security in that? The life of the nation is not involved. Now the question is, was there a criminal case filed? That is the question. I read the report. It was cited there, a criminal number, case number, but there was no mention of the court, the judge, the corpus delicti, or where and when a criminal case was filed. So, what are we talking about national security here? I've been handling national security of this country for 17 years. Thank you, Mr. President.
The Majority Leader is recognized.
Mr. President, this motion and discussion was had during the committee hearing, and the arguments of both sides before the committee decided was had in caucus. So maybe the records should be furnished to the Minority Leader as a member of the Senate. And I think the answers to his question will be there. Having said that, there is nothing to prevent the Honorable Minority Leader, if anyone claims national security during the hearing, not to dispute or to challenge the witness claiming national security. So I think the argument of Senator Enrile, while is well taken, is better in the committee level. And I do remember some of the arguments, for example, that the MILF and some of the rebels might find out the usual procedures of the PNP. But I will not take it to task. It is not my task right now to defend, because I also was just one of the judges or committee members who listened during the committee hearing, and I cannot divulge what was talked about in that room. I can only divulge what was talked here. So with the permission of Senator Enrile, sir, we will furnish you the copies of that, and it does not prevent you, sir, or any member from questioning that during the committee hearing.
Yes.
I just wanted to answer the Senator Poe's inquiry, and rightly so that everyone will be guided. Having said that, Mr. Chairman,
The matter of the executive session was decided by the committee at that time, and whether or not it involved a national security, it was a matter addressed to the committee and the committee voted that the proceedings be considered in executive session. Now, there is nothing that will prevent the minority leader from asking that the matters discussed there, since it does not involve national security, be made public, and the same will be voted upon by the members of the committee. Yes, Mr. Majority Leader.
Sir President, just to reiterate Section 32, when a report is returned to the committee or transmitted to another, unless it is returned for purposes of conducting further hearings on new matters arising after the report, all previous proceedings in connection therewith shall be deemed to be void, and the matter in question shall revert to its original status. The question thrown to the Committee on Rules is whether or not the proceedings will be void if the committee report is returned for further hearings to the committee led by Senator Poe, and the ruling is that we take the Section 32 literally at face value, that when there is a claim for new matters by a senator, we receive that claim in good faith, and that the proceedings will not be void because the second line, unless it is returned for purposes of conducting further public hearings on new matters. So the procedure, Mr. President, is that if this body would accept the interpretation of the Committee on Rules, because we act by committees, but it is the plenary with the power to accept or reject this interpretation. If the body accepts this interpretation, then Senator Enrile can reiterate his motion to reopen the investigation by returning the committee report, and we can act upon it at that time, Mr. President, or this time.
So the chair of the Committee on Rules submitted a report, and the report basically says that when a member of the chamber asserts a new matter arising after the report, that will be taken at its face value, and therefore that qualifies under that satisfies the requirement that this is a new matter arising after the report, and therefore the referral of the committee report back to the committee will not result in the invalidation of the committee report.
Correct, Mr. President.
Is there any objection to that ruling of the Rules Committee? There being none, the ruling is affirmed by the plenary. The chair, however, casts a vote of abstention because he reserves his opinion on the interpretation and application made by the committee rules at this point.
Mr. President, may I now ask the minority leader whether he wants to pursue his motion?
The motion to
basically,
reopen.
Mr. President, it is in accordance with Section 32 to return the committee hearing for the purpose of conducting further hearings on new matters arising after the report.
Senator Enrile is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to reiterate my motion previously made here in plenary that the Mama Sapano hearing should be reopened and to be brought back to the committee so that I can present the evidence with respect to the participation of the President actively, extensively, and directly in the planning of this particular Oplan Exodus, and the fact that he knew it from the very beginning that there was going to be a operation on that day, Sunday, January 25, 2015, and that he was on board plane when they were monitoring the operation, and third, that actually he did not do anything to rescue the beleaguered Mama Sapano assault group of the SAF. And from my study of the evidence presented in the committee, Mr. President, I will show that some members of the cabinet who appeared in these hearings did not disclose the true facts, even though the They knew it, and yet they testified under oath. Then they did not disclose the facts properly and truthfully. Thank you.
Yes, Senator Poe.
Mr. President, I'd like to thank the Minority Leader for his clarification, especially when it comes to the interpretation of Section 32 and new matters. Perhaps, I know that he's rather busy nowadays, but we will appreciate it before we begin the hearing. Just a brief explanation in writing addressed to our office so that it will be part of our records. That's all, Mr. President. Thank you.
Well, that was a report of the Committee on Rules, and I think what it calls for is the submission of the committee report to the Chamber, which the Chamber already previously approved, just for the record, and so that it is reflected in the records of today's session, not only to the office of the good Senator Poe, but to the entire Chamber.
Okay. Thank you, Mr.
Sir
President.
President, maybe the copy of the journal or records will suffice because it contains the ruling. But just as a matter of precedent and courtesy, usually the chairperson has the say on the motion. So just for the record, Senator Poe has no objection to further hearings and the return of the report based on new matters.
Yes, Mr. President, and also to accommodate a member of our collegial body that he would like additional questions since he wasn't given the privilege to do so during that time. And there are no objection also from any member of the body.
Mr. President,
Yes, Senator Soto.
I would just like to second the motion, Mr. President.
All right.
So there's a motion and a second. So far, Mr. President, there are no objections.
Is there any objection? Hearing none, the motion of the Minority Leader is carried. Let the abstention of the chair on this motion be placed of record.
Sir President, before we go to the reference of business, just because we have some esteemed guests in the session hall, may I beg the indulgence of our colleagues that we, and with their consent, that we consider proposed Senate Resolution 1697, take into consideration Senate Bill 1698. This is the resolution congratulating, sorry, Mr. President, may I?
What?
May I withdraw that, Mr. President? And sorry.
I think next on the agenda
Yes,
is
Mr.
the
President.
proposed Senate resolution.
Miss Universe is not here today. Sorry.
What?
I apologize, Mr. President. I made a mistake, but we will just acknowledge. There's no resolution, but allow me to acknowledge the presence of. A while ago, the Magsanok family was here. We also have the national finalists of the 10 accomplished youth organizations. We have the officials and members of the World Championship of Performing Arts. They are here with us today. Officers, Nancy Bianconi, Vice President, World Championship of Performing Artists, Hollywood, California, WCOPA. Jerry Mercado, National Director of Team Philippines, WCOPA, Philippines. Annie Mercado, Deputy National Director, WCOPA. And Team Philippines Gold Medalist, Samantha, Cedro, and Raymond Grospe. We ask them to rise to be recognized.
We acknowledge for the record the presence of our guests, the officials and members of the World Championships of Performing Arts. Let their presence be recorded in our records for this afternoon session. Welcome to the Senate.
So, President, we also have the 5th year BS ECE students of the Polytechnic University of the Philippines, headed by Mr. Michael Viray. May they please rise to be recognized.
The
We were here a while ago,
presence of
Mr.
our
President.
students from the Polytechnic University of the Philippines is made of record.
Sir President, I move that we proceed with the reference of business.
Before we do that, there is a proposed Senate resolution on our Miss Universe. This is proposed Senate Resolution 1679. Can the Majority Leader consider?
Yes.
putting
Well,
this
Mr.
on the
President,
calendar?
with the consent of the body, we can take this up now, and then when she has the opportunity to receive the resolution, then we will receive her in this session hall. Mr. President, with the consent of the Senate, I move that we consider proposed Senate Resolution number 1697, take into consideration proposed Senate Resolution 1698.
Any objection? Hearing none, consideration of the proposed Senate Resolution number 1697 is in order.
With the consent of the Senate, may I request the Secretary to read the title and text of the said measure.
Secretary will read the title and text of the said measure.
PS Resolution number 1697 introduced by Senator Manuel Lito M. Lapid. Resolution congratulating and commending Pia Alonso Wurzbach for honoring the Philippines with the prestigious Miss Universe 2015 title on 20 December 2015 at Planet Hollywood Resort and Casino in Las Vegas, Nevada, United States of America. Whereas the Philippine Senate has on several occasions paid tribute to outstanding Filipinos for bringing home pride and glory to the country by reaping awards in international events and competitions. Whereas 26-year-old Binibining Pilipinas Universe 2015 title holder Pia Alonso Wurzbach made the country proud when she graced and honored the country with the 2015 Miss Universe title on 20 December 2015 at Planet Hollywood Resort and Casino in Las Vegas, Nevada, United States of America. Whereas Miss Universe Pia Alonso Wurzbach exhibited not only classic Filipino beauty but also intelligence with a response to the final question, to be a Miss Universe is both an honor and responsibility. If I were to be Miss Universe, I will use my voice to influence the youth and I will raise awareness to certain causes like HIV awareness that is timely and relevant to my country, which is the Philippines. I want to show the world, the universe rather, that I am confidently beautiful with a heart, close quote. Whereas the Miss Universe pageant, which started in 1952 as local swimwear competition, is an annual event participated in by young women around the world, all vying for prestigious titles as winners. Whereas Miss Universe Pia Alonso Wurzbach victory is the third crown for the country, with Gloria Diaz and Margarita Moran crowned decades ago in 1969 and 1973 respectively. Whereas by being crowned the universe's most beautiful woman, Pia Alonso Wurzbach gave Filipinos unparalleled pride and showed the world the unwavering spirit of Filipino beauty, grace, and excellence. Whereas the honor earned by our Filipino beauty queen deserves to be commended for the pride and recognition that it brought our country. Now, therefore, be it resolved, as it is hereby resolved by the Senate, to congratulate and commend Pia Alonso Wurzbach for honoring the Philippines with the prestigious Miss Universe 2015 title on 20 December 2015 at Planet Hollywood Resort and Casino in Las Vegas, Nevada, United States of America.
Majority Leader.
Mr. President, considering the honor that the Miss Universe has given all of us, I think that all senators present wish to be made co-authors of this measure, acknowledging her achievements and congratulating her.
All senators present are made co-authors.
Mr. President, I move that we approve proposed Senate Resolution 1697, take into consideration proposed Senate Resolution 1698, subject to style.
Any objection? Hearing none. Proposed Senate Resolution number 1697, taking into account proposed Senate Resolution 1698, is hereby adopted, subject to style.
Mr. President, I move that we proceed to the reference of business.
Secretary will conduct the reference of business.
Messages of the President of the Philippines. Letter of the President dated 16 December 2015 certifying to the necessity of the immediate enactment of House Number 6331 and Senate Bill Number 3035, an act institutionalizing and strengthening public-private partnerships and appropriating funds in order to ensure that vital infrastructure projects will be expeditiously implemented so as to immediately address the urgent needs of calamity-stricken areas as well as sustain the long-term growth of the Philippine economy.
Committee on Rules.
Letter of His Excellency the President dated 16 December 2015 submitting for the Senate's consideration and concurrence the Hague Convention of the Civil Aspects of International Child Abduction, which was adopted on 25 October 1980 in The Hague, Netherlands.
Committee on Foreign Relations.
Letter of His Excellency the President, 16 December 2015, submitting for the Senate's consideration and concurrence the Framework Agreement on the Partnership and Cooperation between the European Union and its member states of the one part and the Republic of the Philippines on the other part, which was signed on 13 July 2012 in Phnom Penh, Cambodia.
Committee on Foreign Relations.
Letter of His Excellency the President dated 16/2015, submitting for the Senate's consideration and concurrence the agreement between the Government of the United States of America and the Government of the Republic of the Philippines to improve international tax compliance and to implement the FATCA, which was signed on 15 July 2015 in Manila.
Committee on Foreign Relations.
Messages from the House of Representatives. Letter from the House of Representatives informing the Senate that on 15 December 2015, it adopted Senate number 2990 as an amendment to House number 5973, an act promulgating a comprehensive policy on needs of persons afflicted with rare disorders.
Archives.
Letter from the House informing the Senate on 15 December 2015, it ratified the Conference Committee report on the disagreeing provisions of House Bill 3675 and 2518, an act removing the conditions for the condonation of all unpaid taxes due from local water districts, amending for the purpose Section 289A of the National Internal Revenue Code as amended.
To the archives.
Letter from the House informing the Senate on 16 December 2015, it ratified the Bicameral Conference Committee report on the disagreeing votes of House Bill number 6132, an act appropriating funds for the operation of the government of the Republic of the Philippines from January 1 to December 31, 2016, and for other purposes.
To the archives.
Letter from the House informing the Senate on 16 December 2015, it ratified the conference report on the disagreeing provisions of House Bill number 1039, an act accepting persons with disability of the value-added tax on certain goods and services, amending for the purpose Republic Act number 7277 as amended, otherwise known as the Magna Carta for Disabled Persons, and for other purposes, and Senate Bill number 2890, and expanding the benefits and privileges of persons with disability, amending for this purpose Section 32 Republic Act number 7277, otherwise known as the Magna Carta for Persons with Disabilities, amended in Section 35B of Republic Act number 8424, otherwise known as the National Internal Revenue Code of 1997 as amended.
To the archives.
Letter from the House informing the Senate that on 16 December 2015, it concurred with the Senate amendments to the following House bills. House Bill number 5531, an act renewing the franchise granted to Radio Mindanao Network under Republic Act number 3122 as amended by Republic Act number 6980 for another 25 years from the date of approval of this act. 5532, an act renewing the franchise granted to Interactive Broadcast Media Inc. under Republic Act number 8210 to another 25 years from the date of approval of this act. And House Bill 5391, an act amending the franchise of Aliu Broadcasting Corporation granted under Republic Act number 7399 and renewing its thus extending the term thereof to another 25 years from the date of the effectivity of this act.
To the archives.
Letter from the House informing the Senate that it passed on December 16, 2015, the following House bills in which request the concurrence of the Senate. House Bill number 6312, granting the Metro Connections and Telecom Corporation the franchise to construct, install, establish, operate, and maintain telecommunication system throughout the Philippines. 6313, an act granting the Makinig Networking a franchise to construct, install, establish, operate, and maintain radio and television broadcasting stations throughout the Philippines. 6314, granting the Mega Manila Telecom Corporation the franchise to construct, install, establish, operate, and maintain telecommunication systems throughout the Philippines. 6315, an act granting the Filipinas Radio Waves Corporation a franchise to construct, install, establish, operate, and maintain radio and or television broadcasting stations throughout the Philippines. And House Bill number 6323, an act renewing for another 25 years the franchise granted to Piña Francia Broadcasting Corporation under RA 8166.
To the Committee on Public Services.
Letter from the House informing the Senate that on 16 December 2015, it passed the following House bills and requests the concurrence of the Senate. 6194, an act creating the Department of Housing and Urban Development, defining its mandates, powers, and functions, and providing funds therefor.
Urban Planning, Housing and Resettlement, Government Organization, and Professional Regulation and Finance.
5887, an act strengthening regulation of employment of foreign nationals, amending for the purpose Articles 40, 41, and 42 of Title II, Book 1 of Presidential Decree 442 as amended, otherwise known as the Labor Code of the Philippines.
Labor, Employment, Human Resource Development, Foreign Relations.
House Bill number 6285, an act establishing a registry of skilled workers in every barangay.
Local Government.
House Bill number 4982, an act establishing a National Technical Vocational High School in Barangay Nasisi, City of Ligao, province of Albay, to be known as Ligao City National Technical Vocational High School, and appropriating funds therefore.
Education, Arts and Culture, Finance.
6318, an act establishing a National Science High School in Barangay Tuburan, City of Pagadian, province of Zamboanga del Sur, to be known as Pagadian City National High School, and appropriating funds therefore.
Committees on Education, Arts and Culture, Finance.
5886, an act allowing foreign individuals or organizations to engage in trade union activities and to provide assistance to labor organizations or groups of workers, amending for the purpose Articles 269 to 70 of the Presidential Decree 442 as the Labor Code of the Philippines.
Labor, Employment, Human Resource Development, Foreign Relations.
6003, an act granting the AMAG Telecommunications Inc. a franchise to construct, install, establish, operate, and maintain telecommunication systems in the Philippines.
Public Services.
6203, an act changing the name of Bacoor National High School in Barangay Tabing Dagat, City of Bacoor, Province of Cavite, to Padre Mariano Gomez National High School.
Education, Arts and Culture.
6204, an act requiring basic education students to undergo cardiopulmonary resuscitation training.
Education, Arts and Culture, Health and Demography.
6211, an act creating a barangay to be known as Barangay Tigpalas in the municipality of San Miguel, Province of Bulacan.
Local Government, Electoral Reforms, People's Participation.
6212, an act converting the Tarlac College of Agriculture in the municipality of Camiling, Province of Tarlac, and the State University to be known as the Tarlac Agricultural University, and appropriating funds therefore.
Education, Arts and Culture, Ways and Means, Finance.
6229, an act declaring Mainit Falls and Hot Springs in Bakbakan Falls, both located in the municipality of Brooks Point, Province of Palawan, as tourist destinations and providing for their development.
Committee on Tourism.
6238, an act reducing the minimum membership requirement for registration of unions or federations and streamlining the process of registration, amending for this purpose Articles 234, 235, 236, and 227 of PD 442 as amended, otherwise known as the Labor Code of the Philippines.
Labor, Employment, and Human Resource Development.
6244, an act creating the position of Assistant City Administrator, establishing the City Registry of Deeds Office, and emphasizing the prohibition on illegal gambling, amending for the purpose certain sections of RA 8983, otherwise known as the Charter of the City of Bayawan.
Local Government.
And House Joint Resolution Number 36, Joint Resolution of the House of Representatives and the Philippine Senate, revoking the franchise granted to Aboitiz One Inc. through Republic Act Number 7583 as amended by Republic Act Number 9170 in view of the sale of said corporation to Negros Navigation Company Inc. without the prior approval of Congress.
Public Services.
Bills on first reading, Senate Bill Number 3037, an act amending Article 145 of Act Number 3815, also known as the Revised Penal Code, as amended, on the duration of the penalty for the crime which a member of Congress has committed before he or she can be prevented from attending sessions of Congress in order to make the same consistent with the Constitution by Senator Defensor Santiago.
Justice and Human Rights.
3038, an act amending Republic Act Number 8485, also known as Animal Welfare Act of 1988, to prohibit the use of animals for marketing medical services by Senator Santiago.
Agriculture and Food.
3039, an act defining and penalizing the crime of criminal neglect of a vulnerable elderly person or a person with disability.
Social Justice, Welfare, Rural Development, and Justice and Human Rights.
3040, an act amending Article 131 of Penal Code to uphold the right of residents to privacy from mass or concerted actions not directed to the
Committee
public.
on Justice and Human Rights.
3041, establishing a system of tax incentives for individuals and corporations that engage the research, development, production of electronic transport vehicles.
Committee on Ways and Means, Trade, Commerce, and Entrepreneurship, and Climate Change.
3042, an act requiring chemical testing for prospective adoptive parents by Senator Santiago.
Social Justice, Rural Development, Health and Demography.
3043, an act establishing a grant program for pre-disaster hazard migration
National
mitigation
Defense
enhancement.
and Security, Finance.
3044, an act requiring all government departments and agencies to issue a report to the Civil Service Commission and Congress regarding feasibility of alternative work schedules by Senator Santiago.
Civil Service, Government Organization, Professional Regulation.
3045, an act to ensure the safety of cosmetic surgery
Health and
patients.
Demography.
3046, an act establishing physical education standards
Education,
for
Arts
schools.
and Culture, Health and Demography, Finance.
3047, act prohibiting children under the age of 7 from the seat of a motor vehicle except under
Public
limited
Services.
circumstances. Resolutions 1683, directing the proper Senate Committee to conduct an inquiry of legislation, the Recent Commission on Audit report that Overseas Workers Welfare Administration failed to collect some 137 million in total ticket cost advance to
Labor,
overseas Filipino
Employment, and Human
workers.
Resource Development.
1684, directing the proper Senate Committee to conduct an inquiry and aid of legislation, the Recent Commission on Audit report that the Boy Scouts of the Philippines spent little in scouting activities despite its huge income.
Accountability of public officers and investigation.
1685, directing the proper Senate Committee to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation, the report that the Commission on Audit has ordered 28 government firms to return 626
Committee on
million in
Finance,
legal
Government
allowances.
Operations, and Public Enterprises.
1686, directing the proper Senate Committee to conduct an inquiry and aid on the report that hunger among Filipino families worsened in third quarter 2015.
Social Justice, Welfare, and Rural Development.
1687, directing the proper Senate Committee to conduct an inquiry on journalist killings, taking into account the recent alleged murder of radio reporter in Quezon City.
Committee on Justice and Human Rights, Public Information, and Mass Media.
1688, directing the proper Senate Committee to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation, the report that plastic waste remains a problem in Makati City despite the local ban by
Environment and
Senator
Natural
Santiago.
Resources.
Directing the proper 1689, directing the proper Senate Committee to inquiry in aid of legislation, the report that 2.28 billion road through Sierra Madre is said to be built despite protest by Senator Santiago.
Environment and Natural Resources, Public Works.
1690, directed the proper Senate Committee to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on the Commission audit report that the National Irrigation Administration failed to irrigate farmlands in 2014.
Public Works and Agriculture and Food.
1691, directing the proper Senate Committee on the report that the Department of Budget and Management continued using the Priority Development Assistance Fund in 2014.
Finance.
1692, directing the proper Senate Committee to conduct on the report the small town lottery operations of the government 2.9
Ways and
billion.
Means, Games and Amusement and Sports.
1693, on the alleged use of prohibited active fishing gears in Cebu by Senator Santiago.
Agriculture, Food and Environment, Natural Resources.
1694, on the report that climate change and land conversion of the killing coffee farms in Bataan by the Senator Defensor
Agriculture and
Santiago.
Food.
1695, congratulating and commending boxer Nonito Filipino Flas Donaire for winning the World Boxing Organization Junior Featherweight title against Mexican boxer Cesar Juarez at Coliseo Roberto Clemente, Puerto Rico, by Senator Lapid.
Rules.
1696, congratulating and commending the recipients of the Outstanding Young Men of the Philippines 2015 by the Junior Chamber International Philippines, Toyam Foundation Inc., and Jerry Rojas Foundation by Senator Lapid.
I think we already haven't we passed the resolution, this resolution earlier?
Toyam.
Hmm? Okay, Committee on Rules.
PS 1700, sub-resolution recognizing and recommending as Ms. Margareta Wallstrom, Special Representative of the United Nations Secretary General for Disaster Risk Reduction and Head of the United Nations Office for Disaster Risk Reduction, for an invaluable role in mainstreaming disaster risk reduction in international development frameworks and supporting the implementation of key disaster reduction and management programs by Senator Legarda.
Rules.
Additional reference of business. 1702, directing the Senate Committee on Tourism and other appropriate Senate committees to conduct an investigation in aid of legislation on the plight of local and foreign tourists arriving at Ninoy Aquino International Airport given the alleged overcharging and other unscrupulous acts by airport taxis which may dampen the country's tourism campaign by Senator Angara.
Committee on Tourism and Public Services. May the chair inquire as to whether or not we referred proposed Senate Resolution 1700 to the appropriate committee. Was this referred? Okay. Please proceed. It has been referred to the appropriate Committee on Rules. We are now on 1703 PS.
Tapos na. Resolution 1703 directing the proper Senate committee to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on the report that the Philippine tarsier has been listed as one of the most endangered primates in the world by Senator Santiago.
Environment and Natural Resources.
Communication, letter from the Executive Secretary Ochoa Jr. of the Office of the President, dated 22 December 2015, transmitting to the Senate Republic Act Number 10717, or the Fiscal Year 2016 General Appropriations Act.
To the archives.
Committee Report 350 by the Public Services Committee 5571, introduced by Representative Sombing, an act granting the Mactan Electrical Company MECO a franchise to construct, install, establish, operate, and maintain a distribution system for the conveyance of the electric power to the end users in the city of Lapu-Lapu and the municipality of Cordova, province of Cebu, by Senator Osmeña.
Calendar for ordinary business. Second additional reference of business.
As is so, the President of the Philippines, letter of His Excellency President Benigno S. Aquino III, dated 12 January 2016, returning without his signature and vetoing the enrolled bill, House Number 5842, entitled An Act Mandating a 2,000 peso across-the-board increase in the monthly pension with corresponding adjustment of the minimum monthly pension under the Social Security system, amending for the purpose Section 12 of the Republic Act Number 1661 as amended, otherwise known as the Social Security Act of 1987, pursuant to Section 27, Paragraph 1, Article 7 of the Constitution. While we recognize the objective of the bill to promote the well-being of the country's private sector retirees, we cannot support the bill in its present form because of its dire financial consequences. 2,000 peso across-the-board pension increase with the corresponding adjustment of the minimum monthly pension will result in substantial negative income for the Social Security system. More specifically, the proposed pension increase of 2,000 per retiree multiplied by the present number of more than 2 million pensioners will result in a total payout of 56.0 billion pesos annually, compared against annual investment income of 30 billion pesos to 40 billion pesos. Such total payment for pensioners will yield a deficit of 16 billion to 26 billion pesos annually. Given the situation, the Social Security system will be constrained to draw from and use its investment reserve fund to support the pension increase. Consequently, the IRF will diminish over the years, eventually reaching zero by the year 2029. The stability of the entire benefit system, whose present membership comprises about 31 million individuals, will be seriously compromised in favor of 2 million pensioners and their dependents.
To the Committee on Rules. The Majority Leader.
Mr. President, just an administrative matter. I move to designate Senator Cynthia Villar as an additional member of the Senate panel in the Bicameral Conference Committee on Conflicting Provisions of SBN 2671 and HBN 6268. This is the Salary Standardization Law 4, Mr. President.
So nominated and Senator Ligarda.
Senator Villar, Cynthia Villar, as an
Cynthia
additional
Villar.
member. For the record, Mr. President, previous members are Senator Trillanes, Legarda, and Soto.
Yes.
Mr. President, I move that we adjourn the session until 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Tuesday, January 19, 2016.
Any objection? Hearing none, session is adjourned until January 19, 2016, Tuesday at 3 o'clock in the afternoon.